We have to stop with the madness with Diddy. Ever since Sean Diddy Combs was indicted for sex trafficking and other serious charges, it's been like a free for all of conspiracy theories and rumors and just salacious clickbait. And enough is enough. We have to put a stop to it and focus on what's really important, which is the victims. Let's get into it. I went on a little mini rant on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm going to say. But news just came out that Piers Morgan had to issue an apology to Jay-Z and Beyoncé. What happened was Piers had Jaguar Wright, a singer from, about like 20 years ago. And Jaguar is one of these talking heads. She's been making the rounds talking about Diddy and spreading a lot of just like rumors and conspiracy theories. What she said was that Jay-Z is somehow a bigger predator than Diddy, that he's next. She says a lot of things and a lot of claims with nothing to really back it up. But it's great for the soundbite. It's great for the clickbait. And I'm really glad that Jay and Beyonce's team put a stop to it. If Piers Morgan is going to say that he's a legitimate journalist, which I think he would say, regardless of how you feel about him, he can't just spread fake news. It's one thing if there's been fact checking, it's one thing if he has evidence, or perhaps she provided evidence that can at least corroborate what she's saying. But we've just come to a point where everyone is just saying whatever they want to somehow shoehorn themselves into what's going on with Diddy. It just has to stop. I think the problem with the Diddy case, it has all the makings of just celebrity drama and gossip. There's alleged sex. There's closeted homosexuality and allegations around that. Drug use, power, wealth, fame, all of these things that would make for a great like Lifetime movie or a great soap opera. But we have to remember when we are clicking on things, sharing things, even if it's just like among our friends or retweeting, we're still talking about people's lives. And there are actual victims, according to the federal government. There are people whose lives have really been hurt and been affected. That should be the focus. Now is not the time to turn it into almost this like witch hunt. Like, I don't know how you guys feel, and please let me know in the comments. I feel instead of focusing on victims, whether they be female victims or male victims, so much of the conversation is just trying to out people. Like, okay, you're gay, you're on the DL. I'm not sure why like men having sex with men is so interesting to people. Like, it's 2024. Some people are gay. They are people. Like, let's get over it. But it just takes me back to the 90s. For all of my 90s heads, like, you remember the whole DL conspiracy theories, which men in hip hop were secretly gay, and there was like the secret powerful cabal of them, and they were controlling the music industry. Someone like a Wendy Williams, her whole shtick on the radio was like, how you doing? The gay rapper, who could she out? In a weird way, in the 90s, I get it. Like, we still weren't like that evolved, I think, as a species when it came to homosexuality. But it's 2024. Gay marriage is legal. Everyone knows someone who's gay. They're great. They're just regular people. And to me, it doesn't matter if Puffy is gay, straight, bisexual, on the DL. Like, I don't care how he chooses to have sex. I don't care what famous people maybe he's had sex with, whether it be on camera, off camera. These things are not important. What's important in this conversation is consent. Was a crime committed? These are the larger things we need to be discussing, not trying to out rappers and trying to out people who maybe don't want to be out. Like, to me, that's none of our business, and that doesn't help the larger, bigger issue at hand. If you go on social media, so many people are talking about Diddy sexuality, the whole no Diddy thing, which I think is ridiculous. Like, why does anyone have to say pause, no homo? Like, we're all adults. But okay, fine, whatever. The no Diddy jokes, the baby oil jokes, pointing out what other rappers could maybe be gay. That's where the dialogue is, and that's where the dialogue has risen to. You don't hear people talking about victims. You don't hear anyone saying, hey, how can we make this industry safer for women? How can we make this industry safer for young people who might be in situations where there's a power dynamic, they feel coerced or influenced or pressured to do things maybe they don't want to do? These are the adult conversations we should be having. I really don't care who's sleeping with who, if it's consensual and if everyone is an adult. And honestly, neither should you. The other problem is because there's no fact checking, there's no real quality control, any and everyone is sort of like inserting themselves into this story. So many people are being interviewed that have no insight into what happened. And I think one great example of that is the Diddy parties. I'm so tired of hearing people ask, have you been to a Diddy party? Here's the thing. If you work in the music industry, if you've been in the entertainment industry, I would say since the 90s, you've probably been to a Diddy party. We've all been to Diddy parties. That's not the same as a non-consensual sexual situation. And I don't know why people can't see that nuance. And it's really quite disappointing. I've seen people just go through what celebrities were at the white party and using this just to kind of point them out like somehow they're sex predators. It's just so irresponsible. And, you can be really destroying people's lives, their reputations, and it just doesn't help what the bigger dialogue should be. Even in the so-called freak-offs, we don't know which freak-offs were consensual versus non-consensual. Again, going back to my earlier point, I don't care about Diddy's sex life. It is none of my business. I don't think anyone should care about that. Now, what does become a matter of the law is if things were happening that were illegal. Were people participating that didn't want to participate? Were people participating that maybe couldn't give consent? Those are the things that we need to focus on. That's really where the government, that's where the media and even fans, I hope that's what they focus on. Every single sexual situation that Diddy was in is not our concern. Let's focus on the indictment. I mean, the federal government has done their job. They've done the investigation. And if you read the indictment, there are very specific charges. They don't say the name of the victims, but the main victim appears to be Cassie because what the indictment says does match her lawsuit in many, many ways. So let's focus on that. What was their relationship? What were the things she was not able to consent to? Was there domestic violence? Of course, we all saw that very, very heartbreaking video that CNN aired. At least once there was an example of domestic violence. Focus on that. A pattern of behavior, predation, a power dynamic. Like these are the things that I'm most interested because that can possibly lead to larger institutional change as well as finding justice for the victims. So I get it. Right now, Diddy is like hot clickbait. Every single news outlet, YouTuber, podcaster, psychic, TikToker, I mean, every single person wants to discuss it. I would just urge you at home, do your research, consider the source, and every single thing we discuss, language does matter. Right now, we are dealing in allegations. The one proof we've seen is the domestic violence incident between Puffy and Cassie in the hotel. Otherwise, everything is an allegation. And, I feel like we need to wait and see until the evidence comes out. Let's wait and see if other victims come forward. But it's so important to be really delicate and sensitive when we discuss things as serious as sexual assault and abuse and domestic violence, turning everything into a joke, turning everything into like a punchline for Instagram. That doesn't help anyone. And at the end of the day, we want justice for the victims, and we want to make sure people in the future, other young women, other young men, they're not in a situation where this might be repeated. And I really think it's so important to consider your sources, fact check what you can, and sometimes it's okay. You don't got to share everything. You don't have to repost, retweet everything. It's totally fine sitting back and letting the federal government do their job, letting the lawyers do their job, and also giving grace to victims. I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories and rumors about some famous male victims. I'm not going to even share who the rumored names are because I think that would be incredibly irresponsible. But let those people, if they indeed are victims, let them come forward on their own terms. It's not for us to tell everyone's story. We don't know where people are in their healing journey. We don't know where they are in their lives. And I think it's so irresponsible, even as fans, if we think we're being well meaning and checking in on them. You don't want to re traumatize people. You don't know what's going on in their mind. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So, again, let's just treat this with care and understand that this is an unprecedented case. Diddy has been a mogul for over 30 years in the music industry. He's been a pop culture icon. And if this case really does have these far reaching arms into all different parts of the entertainment industry, politics, fashion, society, this could be a watershed moment. But let's make sure that all of this is done for good and for change to really come from it. And always to remember that this is about the victims. It's not about us. It's not about the clicks. It's not about, getting clout off something. It's really about victims and for them to gain justice and find the peace that they deserve.